Hello friends. So today we are going to discuss practical regarding clinical examinations of cranial nerves 1, 3, 4, 5 and 6. The second cranial nerve is already been taken in a different practical. So here is the list of 12 pairs of cranial nerves. Why I have put it here? Because this is a very basic thing. Everybody must know it, but still in exam many students they don't know this thing. So remember, this is a very basic thing and everybody must know it. So this is a list. The first cranial nerve is olfactory, second is optic nerve, third one is oculomotor, fourth trochlear, fifth is trigeminal, sixth abducent, seventh facial, eighth vestibulocochlear, ninth glossopharyngeal, 10th vagus, 11th accessory, and 12th is hypoglossal cranial nerve. So this is a complete list of 12 pairs of cranial nerves. Now some of the cranial nerves contain only sensory fibers and are thus known as sensory cranial nerves, while a few are predominantly motor in function and are therefore called motor cranial nerves. And among these 12 cranial nerves, some contain both sensory as well as motor fibers and are thus called mixed cranial nerves. So a cranial nerve can be motor, can be sensory or can be mixed cranial nerve. A systematic and thorough examination of cranial nerves is part of the clinical evaluation of a patient with neurological deficit. The cranial nerves may be affected by primary disease of the cranial nerve or by disease of the brain and meninges or sometimes secondary to other systemic disorder. So a sound knowledge of the anatomy and physiology of cranial nerves is essential in order to understand the logic of methods employed in testing them and the clinical significance of any abnormalities that may be detected. So now let's begin. First, we will start with first cranial nerve or olfactory nerve. So the olfactory nerve is the first cranial nerve which conveys special sensory information related to smell. The name itself says, right? Olfactory. So it deals with olfaction. It is the shortest of the 12 cranial nerves and passes from its receptors in the nasal mucosa to the forebrain. It enters the skull through the cribriform plate of the ethmoid bone. This nerve arises from the olfactory mucosa. The nasal mucous membrane contains bipolar sensory cells that constitute the first order of neurons. Their central processes pass through the olfactory foramina in the cribriform plate of the ethmoid bone and terminate in the olfactory bulb. From the olfactory bulb, the second order of neurons arises and projects to the olfactory cortex, which consists of the periamygdaloid and pre-piriform areas of the piriform lobe. So the olfactory nerve carries the sensation of smell from the nasal mucosa to the olfactory cortex of the brain. So basically it deals with sense of smell or olfaction. And here is a little picture which shows you all these things: olfactory bulb, olfactory nerves and olfactory tract. Now what happens if the first cranial nerve is damaged? So there are few conditions which can occur. The first one is anosmia. What is anosmia? It's a complete or partial loss of sense of smell. Then hyposmia. Hyposmia or microsomia is a reduced ability to smell and to detect odors. And the third one is parosmia. It is a condition in which sense of smell is distorted or perverted. So basically it is a perverted sense of smell. Now there are different conditions which can lead to either of these three things. These three conditions like anosmia, hyposmia and parosmia. Which are these conditions? Infection or inflammation of nasal mucosa, head injury, any malignant condition. Any of these condition can lead to these symptoms or these things. So after the first cranial nerve, let's talk about third, fourth and sixth cranial nerves. Let's first talk about few basic things. The eyeball moves in different direction and the movements are named accordingly. So horizontal movement in an outward direction is called abduction. Horizontal movement in an inward direction is called adduction. Then vertical movement in the upward direction is called elevation, while vertical movement in the downward direction is called depression. And rolling movement towards the nose is called internal rotation, and rolling movement away from the nose is called external rotation. Now about these three cranial nerves. So the third, fourth and sixth cranial nerves, they are usually considered together because they innervate all the external ocular muscles and they function as a physiological unit in the control of the eye movements. Their fibers are interconnected while doing different movements, so they are better taken together to evaluate different clinical conditions related to eye movements. So basically, when different eye movements are going on, all these three cranial nerves, they are, because their fibers are interconnected, so they are being used together, and that is one of the reasons why we take these three nerves together. So the sixth cranial nerve supplies the lateral rectus muscle. The fourth cranial nerve innervates the superior oblique muscle, and the third nerve supplies all the other ocular muscles. Now all these three cranial nerves, they are purely motor in function. They don't have any sensory fiber or sensory function. They control the position of the eyeballs. Cranial nerve 3 influences the position of the eyelids as well as size of the pupils. This third cranial nerve controls all the movements of the eyeball except lateral deviation of the eye and depression of medially deviated eye. It also controls the size of the pupil, as we already talked, and also involved in accommodation of vision. The fourth cranial nerve causes depression of the medially deviated eye. And sixth cranial nerve helps in lateral deviation of the eye. Here is a little picture given. You can see about the position of all the muscles which are present in the eyes, and the number suggests the cranial nerve which supplies that particular muscle. So you can see superior oblique, inferior oblique, they both are supplied by the third cranial nerve, as well as medial rectus and inferior rectus. The superior oblique here supplies by which is supplied by the fourth cranial nerve, and lateral rectus is supplied by the sixth cranial nerve. Now what happens if any of the either of these three cranial nerve is damaged? Acute cranial nerve palsies affecting the third, fourth or sixth cranial nerves in isolation or in combination with other neurological signs and symptoms can be due to a variety of causes such as ischemia, inflammation, infection and compression of the ocular motor nerves. Diplopia or ophthalmoplegia are common signs indicating problems in either of third, fourth or sixth cranial nerves. Diplopia means double vision. In ophthalmoplegia, it means inability to move eye. So these are two common signs indicating that there is some problem among these three cranial nerves. Now the fifth cranial nerve or trigeminal nerve. This is a mixed cranial nerve which consists of both motor as well as sensory fibers. Motor fibers originate in the pons and come out of the brain through the foramen ovale to innervate the muscles of mastication, which are temporalis and masseters, while sensory fibers of the fifth cranial nerve are present in all the three divisions of the nerve. Now trigeminal nerve has three subdivisions. One is ophthalmic, second is maxillary, and third one is mandibular. Also, this fifth cranial nerve is the largest of all 12 cranial nerves. Now regarding these divisions, you can see in the picture as well. Here in the green zone, it's the ophthalmic zone. In green color is ophthalmic zone. Then the red one is maxillary, and the violet or blue one is mandibular zone. So you can see that trigeminal nerve supplies almost all the part of the face, almost entire face. Now regarding these divisions, so the ophthalmic and maxillary divisions are sensory, whereas the mandibular division is both motor as well as sensory. Now ophthalmic division. It carries fibers that receive sensation from the skin over the upper eyelid, eyeball, nasal cavity, side of the nose, forehead, and the scalp as far as the vertex. Then maxillary division. It carries sensation from the upper part of the cheek, skin and mucous membrane of the nose, the upper lip, the upper teeth, the upper part of the pharynx, the root of the mouth and soft palate, and the medial inferior quadrant of the cornea. And finally, mandibular division. So sensory fibers of mandibular division carry sensations from the lower part of the face, the lower lip, the ear, anterior 2/3 of the tongue, and the lower teeth, while motor fibers carry sensations from masseters and temporalis muscle. The trigeminal nerve carries general sensation from different parts of the face and a part of the head and neck. Through its motor functions, it is involved in mastication or chewing. So this is the major motor function. Then damage to trigeminal nerve can cause trigeminal neuralgia. It causes abrupt, searing facial pain, especially in the lower face and jaw and around the nose, ears, eyes or lips. Now this thing, trigeminal neuralgia, is explained in detail in your theory books as well as in your journal as well. So you can go through it. So this is all about the theory part of this practical in brief. Now we will switch over to our main practical aspect regarding how to do all the different tests to evaluate these cranial nerves 1, 3, 4, 5 and 6. Hello everyone. So today we are going to do the practical of clinical examination of cranial nerve 1, 3, 4, 5 and 6. We have not included the cranial nerve second because it's a completely different practical and we have done it all separately. So we are going to do the examination of cranial nerves 1, 3, 4, 5 and 6. So we'll begin with the examination of cranial nerve 1, which is the olfactory nerve. So as you all know, the name itself says olfactory nerve. So it deals with olfaction, means smell. So what we are going to do is we are going to use different odorous substances. We can use some other substances as well, like ether and acetone and all. But here we are going to use clove oil, then asafoetida and peppermint oil. We are going to use these three substances. Now how to do it? So first of all, we need a subject, right? Now as in every test, even in this test, there are some things which need to be taken care of before doing that. So what are those prerequisites? That is, number one, patient should sit comfortably on stool. He should be comfortable, right? The second thing is, he should not be suffering from any infection like common cold. Because if his nasal mucosa will have an inflammation, then it won't be possible to conduct this test because he won't be able to perceive any kind of smell. So this is a very important thing, that he shouldn't be suffering from common cold or any other infection. The third thing is, he should be familiar with all these substances you are going to use. He should be familiar. And number four, when you are doing a test and by chance the person feels hallucination or those kind of thing, immediately stop the test. Wait for some time and then start it again. Got it? So now let's start. So for this, first you have to tell the patient to close his eyes. Aankh band karo. Then remember this thing, you have to do this test in separate nostril, in each separate nostril. So you have to ask the patient to close his one side of nose. Ek side nu naak band karna ko. Like this. Then simply put this bottle on the side of nostril you want to check like this, and then the patient will tell you what is that. શું છે આ? Peeper જેવું. That means peppermint oil. So that means subject is able to perceive the smell of peppermint oil, right? Similarly, we can do on the other side as well. બીજી side નું નાક બંધ કરો, and then you can put it on the other nostril. શું છે? Peppermint oil. So it's the same thing. So like this, you have to repeat this on each side of nostril. Got it? And the other side of the nostril should be closed. After that, we'll use another substance. શું છે? Hing means asafoetida, tincture asafoetida. So the person is or the patient is able to perceive the smell. Finally, the last one. શું છે? Loving or clove. So the patient is able to perceive the smell. We can use some other substances as well, but these are some of the most common substances here. So we use these three things. Okay? So that's it. That's all about cranial nerve 1. We have to do this test only. There is nothing much to do. Now, if you have a journal with you, just look at the observation table. Here, they have written all these three things we have done. Then right nostril, left nostril. So you need to write perceived, smell perceived, and then on remarks, you know what you need to write is that the first cranial nerve is intact. Same here in result. Integrity of the first cranial nerve is intact. So you need to write intact. Got it? So that's all about examination of first cranial nerve. Now we will do the examination of cranial nerves 3, 4 and 6 together. These three nerves we will do together. Why? Because the fibers are interconnected. Plus they act as a physiological syncytium. They deal with the muscle of eye. Especially they supply to the extraocular muscles. So all these fibers are interconnected, so we can do the test at one time, at one go. It's really hard to differentiate, different actions of eye in terms of a particular separate nerve. So to make it easy, we do all these tests together of these three cranial nerves. Right? Now regarding the movements of the eye. So you all know our eyes can do all these movements: adduction, abduction, elevation, depression. So a horizontal movement towards the lateral side, that is abduction. Horizontal movement towards the medial side, that is adduction. A vertical movement upward, that is elevation, and the vertical movement downward, that is depression. Got it? But before doing the test, you need to check first of all few things in patient or subject. That his eye is kind of normal. He is not suffering from some things, or he is not having some symptoms. Like it's already been written in your journal, you need to check for diplopia, ptosis, squint, and nystagmus. So first of all, diplopia. What is diplopia? So diplopia means double vision. For that, you need to ask the patient if the patient is seeing things like, as an example, you need to ask the patient, a kitty bottle chair? A. So that means he is seeing as 1. If he is having diplopia, he will see as 2. So he is not having a double vision, right? So that's diplopia. After that, you need to check ptosis. What is ptosis? Ptosis is drooping of an eyelid. So you need to check as well that the patient is not having a ptosis. After that, squint. What is squint? So squint is a condition in which the visual axis does not meet at a particular point. So if a person is looking at you, but he might be, his eyeballs are moving in other directions. Like here, mari same juo. So see, the person is looking at me. So his visual axis is meeting at one point. So he is looking at me. I feel he is looking at me. But if he is having a squint, then one of his eyeballs might be going to other direction. So you need to check squint as well. And finally, nystagmus. What is nystagmus? Nystagmus is involuntary, rhythmic, jerky movements of eyeball. So you need to check that the patient is not having nystagmus as well. Got it? So you need to check all these things, and then you need to start with the eye movements. So how to do the eye movements? So first, stand at a comfortable distance from the subject. Then put your finger in front of his eyes at around 25 centimeter of distance. 25 centimeters. Got it? So this is roughly around 25 centimeters in front of his eyes. Okay. In this, we can do the this test of eye movements of both eyes at once. We don't need to do it separately. Got it? So how to do it? Put your finger here. Now you have to tell the patient that he has to follow your finger, his eyes. He doesn't have to move his head. He just has to follow your finger. In whichever direction you are moving your finger, he has to follow. So you need to explain to the patient. અમારી આંગળી છે, મારી આંગળી જે બાજુ જાય ને એ બાજુ તમારે જોવાનું છે. તમારું જે ફેસ છે, તમારું હેડ છે, એ તમારે મૂવ કરવાનું નથી. બરાબર? ખાલી મારી આંગળીની સામે તમારે જોઈ રાખો. ઓકે. બરાબર? So 25 centimeter around at a comfortable distance. Just put your finger like this in front of patient's eyes. Remember, your finger should be, it shouldn't be shaky. It should be kind of straight. Now start moving. First of all, go to the lateral side of his right side of eye. You can go to other side as well. Okay, so first go to the lateral side. So this will check lateral rectus of his right eye and medial rectus of his left eye. Then go upwards, vertically upwards. This will check superior rectus of his right eye and inferior oblique of his left eye. Then go vertically down. This will check inferior rectus of his right eye and superior oblique of his left eye. Then again come in center like this. Okay? Now go in other direction like this. This will check lateral rectus of his left eye and medial rectus of his right eye. Then go vertically upwards like this. This will check superior rectus of his left eye and inferior oblique of his right eye. And then go vertically down like this. So this will check inferior rectus of his left eye and superior oblique of his right eye like this. And then come in center like this. Got it? So by this you can check all the movements of the eyeball, even the rotatory movements, because the eyes have rotatory movements as well. So simply by doing this you can check all the movements of the eyeball. Got it? Now look at your journal. So you can see here in the first table, diplopia, ptosis, squint and nystagmus, right? So here right eye, left eye, you need to write absent, absent, because if the person is normal, then diplopia will be absent, ptosis will be absent, squint will be absent and nystagmus will be absent. And in inference, you know what to write. 3, 4 and 6 cranial nerves are intact, right? After that, ocular movements. So here are all the movements we did: upward, downward, inward, upward and outward, downward and outward. So you need to write present, present in left eye and right eye. Present, 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 present everywhere. And in inference, same. You know what to write. After that, turn the page. The C part is examination of pupil. So here the first one is size. So usually, normally the size of the pupil is in bright light 2 to 4 millimeter. In case of dark light, it is 4 to 8 millimeter. So you can write 2 to 4 millimeter. Got it? Then the shape, as you all know, shape of the pupil is circular. So you will write circular or semicircular. Got it? After that, there is a report, isochoria or anisochoria. So what is isochoria? Isochoria is size of pupil of both eye is same. That is isochoria. So you need to check in the patient that his pupil size is equal in both eyes. That is isochoria. In case of anisochoria, it is unequal. Unequal size of pupil. So here in the table you will check isochoria, that the patient is having isochoria but not anisochoria. Got it? After that we will do the pupillary reflex. So there is a direct light reflex, consensual light reflex, accommodation reflex, and ciliospinal reflex. And I think you all have done these reflexes before as well. But let's do it again. It won't take much time. So you all know how to do it, right? So first of all, direct light reflex. How to do the direct light reflex? So first, tell the patient to hold this. You can use a cardboard or journal or anything. To separate the two eyes. Or you can, if you don't have anything, you can use your hand as well, or you can ask the subject to use his hand like this as well. Got it? Then remember, all these tests we have to do separately in both eyes, one by one. So direct light reflex. How to do it? You gotta have a torch with you. We have. Then remember, you always have to start from the lateral side. That the person shouldn't be knowing. You can't just do it like this from the center. No. You have to start from the lateral side or from his side like this. You should be standing in a comfortable distance. Then start. Start like this. And then gradually put the torch, put the light over his eyeball like this. So what you will observe? You will observe the constriction of pupil. That is a direct light reflex. Got it? After that we will do consensual light reflex. So the procedure is same. You need to do the same thing what you did in case of direct light reflex. Same thing. Start from here, from the side, then slowly go to the center, put a light in the pupil like this. But here in consensual light reflex, you need to see the other side of the pupil, this one, on the other eye, right? And what you will observe? You will observe constriction of the pupil as well. What is the reason? Because when the receptors are stimulated, they follow the track, optical chiasma, optical tract, they reach to the pretectal area of midbrain, and then fibers from both sides that terminate onto the Edinger-Weisfeld nuclei of both sides. So that is the reason that when you focus light on one eye, there will be constriction of pupil on the other side as well. Got it? After that, accommodation reflex. So you will know how to do it, but still, let's do it again. So ask the subject to look at far. Dur jo, same jo. Same jo cho? Barabar cha? Okay. Now what you have to do is, you have to bring your index finger closer to the patient, but you have to explain the patient that he must be watching at far. He must not he must not concentrate on your finger. ભલે મારી આંગળી ગમે ત્યાં આવે, તમારે સામે જ જોવાનું છે, દૂર. બરાબર છે? So he is looking at far. Then bring your finger at a comfortable distance of patient's eyes like this, and then tell the patient suddenly to change the gaze. Like ask him to focus on your finger. હવે મારી આંગળી સામે જુઓ. So what you need to observe his pupil, and you can observe constriction of the pupil. So that's a accommodation reflex. Got it? And the final reflex is ciliospinal reflex. Now you can perform, we don't need to perform because it's very hard to get the response, but still at least you should know how to do it. So ciliospinal reflex, what you do, you have to pinch the back of the neck. You have to pinch, but you really need to pinch very hard to get the response. So you need to pinch the back of the neck, and then you need to observe the pupil of his eyes. What you will observe? You will observe dilatation of pupil. So remember, this is the only test in which you will observe dilatation of pupil. In all the other tests, what you are observing? Constriction of pupil. But in this reflex, you will observe dilatation of pupil. But as I said, it's a bit hard to get the response. So it's fine. You should just know the procedure regarding how to do it. You don't need to pinch the person really hard, because it will cause pain. Got it? Now, again come to the journal. So you can see the table has been given. So here all the reflexes, right eye, left eye and inference. So you need to just write direct eye reflex, so present, present, all the reflex, present, 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 and inference, integrity of 3, 4 and 6 cranial nerves intact. Here in results also you need to write intact. Got it? Now the final, the fifth cranial nerve, that is a trigeminal nerve. Now it is a mixed nerve, so we need to check the motor functions as well as sensory functions as well. So now let's begin with the motor functions. So motor functions, we will start with temporalis and masseter muscle, because as we already explained in theoretical part that the trigeminal nerve, it supplies to the almost the entire face except few parts. So it's having 3 divisions as well. We already discussed in theoretical part, so I won't go into much detail, but let's just do it. So first the motor part, temporalis and masseter. How to do it? So you need to tell the patient to clench his teeth. દાંતને કચકચાવો, મોઢું બંધ રાખો અને દાંતને એકદમ કચકચાવો. While person is doing that, first put your both hands toward his temporalis muscle. કચકચાવો. So you will feel the contraction of muscles equally on both sides. Got it? Same way, put your hands on the masseter muscle, and you should feel the contraction of the muscle on both sides equally. So that's temporalis and masseter muscle. Got it? After that, we will check pterygoid muscle. So to check pterygoid muscle, you literally don't have to do anything. You just need to tell the patient or subject to open the mouth. Modu kholo. That's it. This means that his nerve is intact. If it's paralyzed on a particular side, say on the left side, then his jaw will drop on that particular side like this. Because the lateral pterygoid tried to, contract and put the jaw towards the medial side. So if on particular side it's paralyzed, the jaw will droop to the particular side, on the paralyzed side. As you can see here, it's perfectly fine. So we can say that this motor function of this fifth cranial nerve is intact as far as this pterygoid muscle is concerned. Got it? And the third is tensor tympani. So tensor tympani deals with the hearing. So literally you don't need to do anything, you just need to ask the patient, બધું બરાબર સંભળાય છે? કઈ તકલીફ પડે છે સાંભળવામાં? બધું બરાબર વ્યવસ્થિત? So patient is hearing everything perfectly. That means that his tensor tympani is working properly. So this is about the motor parts of the trigeminal nerve. Now let's focus to the sensory part, sensory division. Now as far as sensory division is concerned, all these tests you have already done it previously. And remember one more thing, that the trigeminal nerve also supplies to the tongue as well, anterior two-third part of the tongue muscles. Okay, so you have to do the test examination as well, but since you have already done it in the other cranial nerve examinations, we are not going to do it here. Instead we will do other tests, since you already done it before, but we will do it quickly, like fine touch, root touch, pain, pressure, tactile localization, tactile discrimination. All these things we will do it very quickly. I know you already done it before, but here you just need to take care of one thing, that we are checking trigeminal nerve and it supplies to the face, muscles of face or the parts of face. So you need to do all this examination in the face only. You can't do it to the other parts. Got it? You have to do in particular face part, face area only. So we'll do it quickly. You already done it, but still we'll do it quickly. First is fine touch. So as you all know, for fine touch we need the wisp of cotton. We have to tell the patient to close his eyes. આંખ બંધ કરો. હવે હું તમને રૂનું કુમડું છે એ ફીલ કરાવીશ, ટચ કરાવીશ. તમને જ્યારે એવું લાગે કે ટચ થાય છે તો તમારે બોલવાનું નહીં, તમારે ખાલી હાથ ઊંચો કરવાનો. So you need to tell the patient that whenever he feels it, he need to raise his hand. He doesn't need to talk anything, he just needs to raise his hand. That means that he is able to perceive it. Got it? So let's start. Now, as I told you, because this trigeminal nerve, it has 3 divisions. You already explained. So you need to do it in 3 parts, like 1, 2 and 3. In both the areas, like the left half as well as right half. You need to do it separately on both the halves. Got it? So if I am doing from the on the left half, I need to do it on 3 parts. Like one is here, one is here, one is here. Because it has 3 divisions, trigeminal nerve. So 1, 2, 3, and then on the other half 1, 2, and 3. This is really important. So you should really remember this thing. Got it? So let's do. તમને જ્યારે ફીલ થાય ત્યારે હાથ ઊંચો કરજો. Okay. So patient is able to perceive. Got it? So we'll just do one part, but you have to do to all the 3 parts of one side. So in total 6 parts of the entire face. Got it? So this is fine touch. After that, crude touch. So for crude touch you can use any blunt object, and it's almost the same thing. તમને કઈ ફીલ થાય ત્યારે હાથ ઊંચો કરજો. બરાબર છે? ઓકે. So the patient is able to perceive. So this is crude touch. After that, we'll do tactile localization. For tactile localization, you can use wisp of cotton as well. You need to explain the patient that you are going to touch the wisp of cotton to a particular part, and then you will slightly withdraw it, and the patient will put his hand, put his finger at the same spot you touch the wisp of cotton. તમારી આંખ બંધ છે, બરાબર? હવે હું તમને કોઈ એક જગ્યાએ રૂનું ગુંડું ટચ કરાવીશ. જે જગ્યાએ તમને ટચ થાય એ જ જગ્યાએ તમારા એક હાથની આંગળી ટચ કરવાની છે. બરાબર? So the patient is able to perceive. This is tactile localization. After that, tactile discrimination. So for tactile discrimination, we will use, you all know this thing, this is compass aesthesiometer. I think you already done it, so you will know how to use it. So I won't explain much, but you will know how to do it. Just know one thing, that one of the best place to do this test is lips, because it's extremely sensitive. So the best place to do this tactile discrimination is on his lips. You need to explain the patient. હું તમને છે ને આ જગ્યાએ તમારા હોઠ ઉપર મૂકીશ. જો તમને જ્યારે એવું લાગે કે એકની જગ્યાએ બે અલગ અલગ પાર્ટ છે, બે અલગ અલગ તમને ટચ થાય છે, ત્યારે તમારે હાથ ઊંચો કરવાનો. એકની જગ્યાએ બે ખૂણા છે એવું લાગે ત્યારે હાથ ઊંચો કરવાનો. બરાબર? So I put it here like this on his lips. Then I simply તમને જ્યારે બે ટચ થાય, બે એવું લાગે કે બે અલગ અલગ ખૂણા છે, ત્યારે હાથ ઊંચો કરજો. લાગ્યું? So you can see the patient can perceive 2 different parts at a comfortable distance. So this is tactile discrimination. Okay? After that, there is temperature, warmth and cold, but we are not doing it there. After that is pain. So for pain sensations, we can use this pin, tachni, whatever you say, but always note these things that we need to check the superficial pain only. So you don't need to, put it really deep, or it will hurt the patient or the subject. Got it? તમને જ્યારે ફીલ થાય ત્યારે હાથ ઊંચો કરજો. Just simply put it like this, so the patient is able to perceive. Got it? After that, pressure. So pressure, you can again use the blunt object as we use. You can use your pen as well. You can use any blunt object. Simply again, just give the genuine pressure like this. हाथ ऊंचो करो, so the patient is able to perceive. Got it? And then final 2 tests, that is conjunctival reflex and corneal reflex. So again, you all know how to do it, but very quickly, let me just do it. Remember, you need to do this test in both eyes separately. Okay? Now tell the patient to look. સામે જુઓ. Look in front. We don't need watching this. We need a wisp of cotton. Now, the most important thing is always go from the side. Always. Never ever go from the central thing. No. The other most important thing is the patient should not be aware of what you are going to do. Because if the patient is aware, you won't get the response proper. Because he already knows what you are doing, so you won't get the response. right? So just go from the side like this and briskly touch the conjunctiva of the patient. What you will observe? Instant closure of eye. So that is conjunctival reflex. In case of corneal reflex, it's pretty much the same. You just need to touch the corneal part. So that is corneal reflex. So this is all about the sensory division of the fifth cranial nerve, that is trigeminal nerve. Now come to the journal. You can see the table. So first, motor functions. All the muscles have been given here. In observation, you will write right and left PP, that means present, present. Grade, as far as grade is concerned, you will write G5, G5. And inference, motor part of fifth cranial nerve is intact. And then the sensory functions. So you will just write on all these tests, perceived, 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 and inference, sensory division of fifth cranial nerve is intact. And finally on result, integrity of fifth cranial nerve, motor functions intact, sensory functions intact. So that's all about this practical clinical examination of cranial nerves 1, 3, 4, 5 and 6. Thank you.